Hello and welcome back to another tutorial. This is the Smash tutorial that I promised on the Facebook page. This is designed specifically for Daniel Phillips tutorials on Facebook. So if you're not already a fan like me, it's Daniel Phillips tutorials, and obviously there's going to be a lot more tutorials where these come from. First things first, this tutorial does rely on Video Copilot's Action Essentials 2. If you haven't seen Action Essentials 2, I question where you've been for the last 12 months. But yeah, this is a really great collection. I'm going to be using the 720 version because I was too tight to buy the 2K version. And that's that. So yeah, you join me in After Effects. This is the effect that we're going to be looking at creating. Let's do a really quick RAM preview here. And the main effect, what we're looking at, I'm not going to go into the stylizing of it too much, but we are going to look at placing the 2D elements in 3D space so that it gives a little bit of a parallax. This is, a bit of an overt version of it. I'm going to try making it a little bit, a little bit less over the top. But yeah, so we're coming straight into After Effects here. I've created a new comp. I'm not going to work in HD because my laptop's struggling as it is. So I'm going to pull out one of these falling glass elements, as I said, from Action Essentials 2. And all I'm going to do is find a frame that I like. I quite like that one back there. Let's go back a couple. There we go. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to click Time, Freeze Frame. And I'm going to extend it out. And I'm going to name these as I go. And you'll see why in a little bit. But I'm going to call this Front 1. And maybe I'll pull out number 7, turn that off, pull out number 7. I want quite a chunky piece of glass for this one, so I'm going to freeze frame it there. And basically all I'm going to do is create about 7 or 8 layers like this, so I'm going to click Front 2. And I'm going to leave them blue. Okay, so now we're going to work on the mid-ground, so I'll pull in number 6, and I'll be honest with you, I quite like that as it is, so I'm going to click Time, Freeze Frame. Fantastic. And maybe if I pull in number 5 again, find another frame that I quite like, maybe where the glass is a bit more spread, like that, and we call this Time, enable Time, Freeze Frame. And I'm going to pull out, well, let's name these mid-ground first, so mid 1 and mid 2. So let's pull out number 8. I think this one comes a little bit more shattery and like a lot finer glass. Let's have a look here. What we want to do is avoid it so that it hasn't hit the floor plane yet. So let's say about there, that's fine. Oh, double click by accident, so right click, Time, Freeze Frame. That's cool, and we're going to call it BG1. And you can see where I'm going here. One more, background 6. Let's turn that one off. So falling glass 6, and let's find just one more spot. Yeah, so that's fine. And Time, Freeze Frame. Call it BG2, and that's cool. Now, because we're going to be using so many different layers, what I am going to do, and what you should probably get into the practice of doing, is just color code your layers. I'm going to leave these as that color. I'm going to change the 2 mids to an orange and maybe a green for these. And next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new null object and duplicate it so that there's 4 of them. Okay, and I'm going to drag one null on top of front, one null on top of mid, leave one null on top of background, and that's the way it should look. So let's color code these the same colour. I do believe that's aqua. Ooh, no. And I'm going to call this orange. And we're going to call this one green. And I'm going to call this one pink, purely because I know that cameras come in as pink, and that's the next thing we're going to do. So camera, that's fine. So the camera's in. And now what we want to do is create all these into 3D layers. And let's turn them all on. There's going to be a shed load of glass, but don't worry about that. And we're going to go around and parent everything to the correct thing. So I'm going to name this bottom one front control, and I'm going to call this one mid control, this one VG control, and this one cam control. Lovely. Now what we need to do is move these about, because at the moment the front is at the bottom, so we need to move them around like that, and move the background down. And I'm going to move background control down as well, just so that it's all in order. Now what I'm going to do is we've got front control needs to be moved up there. I'm going to turn everything off apart from the front ones, okay? And I'm just going to move them around a little bit, just to get a little more variation. Just remember to move them on the X and Y, not the Z, because on the Z space I'm going to use the front control to use the Z space. And basically by doing it this way I can control. Ooh, whoops a daisy. Stupid me. We need to do the parenting first. So front goes to the front control, obviously. And we're just going to do it like this. So I'm going to highlight mid 1 and 2, drag the pick whip to mid control, highlight background 1 and 2, and there we go. So now I can move the front control in Z, and basically just place it so that there isn't too much. You know, we want quite a lot of glass in the way, but not so much that it obscures everything. So I'm just going to move it to about there, and that's fine. I'm going to turn it off, and I'm going to turn on the mids. And obviously the mid ground, what I'm going to do with the mid ground is I'm going to duplicate mid 2 and create a third one. And I'm just going to rotate it on the Y, hitting W. Oh, on the Y I wanted. So where's the Y? Z, sorry. Ugh. I'm a little bit sleepy today, but yeah. So just so there's more glass in the foreground, in the mid-ground even. So let's just move these about now then. There's that. That's okay. And mid 1 can just be moved over slightly. The mid-ground is where we want most of the glass. Now with mid control selected, I'm going to go into the top view. Okay. And we can see, just turn on front control so we know where that is. And I'm just going to move this forward slightly. We don't want a huge amount of parallax. We don't want too much parallax between. If you look in this original video, there's a huge space between the front and the mid. So we don't want that in this one. So you know, about there, that's fine. And then I'm going to turn them off. Turn on the final background, and we're going to go back to camera 1. And these ones, these are just going to be somewhat of an afterthought, just to fill in the background and give a little more parallax. I'm going to move it down slightly, and move this down slightly, and that's fine. Now if I turn it all on now, there's still no real, you know, differentiation between the foreground and the background. What I am going to do is, with these two selected, I'm going to drop the opacity just a touch. not too much. And that's that. And another thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to drop some text in. And because the tutorial is called Smashed, let's call it Smashed, you will find me using Typograph Pro a lot, and that's purely because I absolutely love the font. It's from amateurmedia.net. It also comes with optical flares 2, I think, the second expansion pack. So that is absolutely amazing, and I got it from Optical Flares. So let's have a look at this active cam here. Let's move it here slightly. Not going to be too fussy with this. I'm going to scale it down a little bit. There we go. And another thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to rotate on the Y slightly towards the camera. And the reason I do this is because we're going to be using depth of field in a little while. And basically it just adds to the depth of it all. So before I add depth of field, I'm going to add layer, new adjustment layer. But actually before that, again, with Smashed, I'm going to add a quick ramp. Because we're going to be adding a glow in a little while. And what this does is it just won't it'll let Smashed not basically glow all over. It'll give it a little bit of a texture, you know. So we're gonna, where's the start of the ramp here? There it is. So we're gonna move. What I want to do is I swap these round and just darken this out a little bit, not too much. That's cool. So as you can see, it's going to be quite white in the middle, and then we're going to move this Smashed off to the side. Let's get some darkness back in. And there we go, that's fine. So yeah, on the adjustment layer, I'm going to add Effect, Stylize, Glow. And the first one, I'm going to make it really intense, so 1.5 intensity, and take the threshold up quite high, so there's only a few things glowing. Let's have a look here, let's get this right. And I'm going to bump the radius up a touch as well. So it's not too intense there, but what I'm going to do then is I'm going to add another glow. And then this one's going to be just the filler. It's going to make everything glow. Like so, and maybe turn the intensity of this one down a little bit. So I'm going to make this maybe 0.5. And there we go on that. Now, in the original I did put blood in, and you can do that. I'm not going to do it now because you've seen how I did it. So the next thing I'm going to create, which I probably should have done earlier on, is a new solid. I'm going to move it down to the bottom and rename it BG. And with BG selected, I'm going to go layer, new, no sorry, generate ramp. And what I want to do with this ramp is basically put the midpoint to like a really dark grey and put this to black. Okay, and I'm going to pull this down to the center and make it radial again. I'm going to move this out a little bit. And make this slightly darker again. Because we don't want the background to be too much. And that's fine for now. So with this camera selected now, we are going to open the options and click on depth of field. So let's nothing much is happening at the moment, but this is soon going to change. Knock the aperture up to about 90, and now we're going to start seeing things happen. Maybe make it around 100. Okay, and now we're just going to play with the focus distance to find where smashed is. Oh, wrong one. I want to make this one come down a little bit more. And there we go, we're starting to find the focus point there now, right in the centre. So maybe what I want to do is just, because we found it there, I'm just going to drop the aperture down so we can maybe pull back some of the focus. That's cool, and knock the blur amount up. And there we go. Now these glows I could probably bump up a little bit more, so I'll bump the intensity up. Bump it up a little bit more even. I'm just going to play with these settings to get the look that we want. And you know, that's cool for now. And all that I'm going to do now is just going to add another adjustment layer. We call this one glows, and we call this one color correction. And all I'm going to do now is just give it a bit of a nicer color. So I'm going to go color correction tint first of all. And this tint is going to be quite minimal. I'm going to leave it at about 13 or 14. Just desaturate it a touch. Then I'm going to go, first of all I'm going to change it to half res because the depth of field is on. So I'm going to go effect, color correction, curves, and first of all just bring down the contrast and bump up there, so it is quite dark and menacing. And then I'm going to pull out some reds, give it a cyany colour, and as you can see now we are going for a really stylized look now, and that's cooled down a little bit. So let's turn this back up to full res. And as you can see, it is kind of starting to look with what we ended there. I did use some third-party plugins to color correct the last one, so it's not going to look exactly the same. But you know, we could add a couple of flares here and there now, and this would look pretty damn good. But what, the main reason this tutorial was because we wanted to create a parallax. So let's get that done. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off depth of field for now. And put it down to half res, just so we can animate this camera without too much bother. I'm going to move it on the X, like so. I'm going to keyframe the position. I don't know, 3 or 4 seconds later, and we're going to drag it along. So it's about there. This camera angle is just to show you what we've created. And let's give it a really quick RAM preview, so you can see the parallax happening. And there, I know, this is a crazy amount of glass. No window smashing would ever create this amount of glass. But this is the stylized look that I was going for. And I mean, if you imagine it with depth of field on as well there now, which would basically add more depth to all this glass, then just short of using a 3D program, this is the best way to make it look 3D. You're not going to get it, apart from like lighting or whatever, you're not going to get much better 3D than this outside of a 3D program, So let's have a quick look at this. So as you can see, although the frame rate's going to be a little bit jumpy on the screencast, you can see the look that we have gone for there. Let's just find a nice spot. I quite like that actually, so I'm going to turn this back up to full. and just give one final beautiful look at the product. We turn on depth of field, and then it takes 15 years to render, and there it is, smashed. Thanks very much for watching. Hopefully this screencast is a little bit better than the last few I've done. So thanks very much for watching. I've been Daniel Phillips, and catch me again on Daniel Phillips Tutorials. Bye bye.